Chapter 11, Mutation. Zhang Xiaofan looked at the bead for a while, his breathing gradually calming down. Apart from noticing a slight difference in its color and brightness, he couldn't discern anything else. He had no choice but to put it back around his neck. Glancing at Tianyin beside him, he saw that she was still unconscious, but her complexion had improved significantly. Picking up the amber silk cord, he examined it closely. It was the first time he had looked at this treasure up close, feeling its softness and comfort. Thinking back to Tianlinger's graceful figure as she flew through the air just now, he couldn't help feeling a bit envious. After observing it for a while, he imitated Tianlinger's gestures and called out, "Wake up." The amber silk cord remained motionless like a dead snake, paying no attention to him. Chirp, 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 chirp. On the side, the gray monkey clutched its belly, laughing uncontrollably. It fell to the ground. Zhang Xiaofan gave it a glare, but after having faced adversity together just now, he couldn't help feeling a bit fond of the monkey. Any previous hostility had vanished. He stuck out his tongue at the monkey, making a face, then ignored it and placed the amber silk cord beside Tianlinger, his gaze shifting to the pool of water in the clearing. It was a small pool, not large in size, with no visible source, likely formed by underground spring water. The water in the pool was emerald green, and from this vantage point, its depth was indiscernible. On the western side of the pool, there was a gap from which the water flowed out, forming a small stream that meandered away. In the center of the pool, there was a pile of scattered rocks of various sizes and shapes, with only a small portion exposed above the water's surface. Among the scattered rocks, a black shirt stick was inserted diagonally, protruding about a foot above the water, while the rest was submerged. It was pitch black, and its material was indiscernible, looking quite unattractive. Zhang Xiaofan paid it no mind, feeling that this place was peculiar and it would be best to leave early. However, although Tianlinger beside him had calmed down, she remained unconscious, no matter how he tried to wake her up. In contrast, the gray monkey was quite lively, scratching its ears and cheeks, picking and scratching, unable to stay still. Occasionally, it would dart into the woods and pick a few wild fruits from somewhere, tossing to Zhang Xiaofan before sitting down on the ground and enjoying them with relish. Zhang Xiaofan took a bite of the wild fruit and found it sweet and juicy, igniting his appetite. Since he had set off early in the morning and chased all the way here, it was almost noon and he hadn't had a drink at that moment. Zhang Xiaofan suddenly felt a heat in his chest. In an instant, he heard several muffled sounds as if something were shattering. He was shocked and quickly took out the bead from his chest, only to be frightened by what he saw. The entire bead was glowing with a green light, with a fierce ore inside, banging against the walls of the bead as if trying to break free. The protective swastika mantra that had been keeping it in check seemed increasingly weak, on the verge of collapsing. Little did Zhang Xiaofan know, this seemingly ordinary bead was actually the infamous blood-devouring bead, one of the most sinister objects in the world. Its origins were mysterious, but it had a strange characteristic of devouring the essence and blood of living beings. If any living creature came near it, it would be sucked dry of its essence and perish in an instant, leaving only an empty husk. It was truly a terrifying and evil object. Over 1,000 years ago, the speed had fallen into the hands of the elder of the demonic sect. Black-hearted old man, he had refined it into a magic weapon because of its ability to absorb essence and blood, causing havoc and killing countless righteous cultivators. It became one of the fur treasures of the demonic sect. After the death of black-hearted old man, the bead disappeared without a trace. By stroke of luck, the monk Piyuzi of Tianyin Temple discovered this evil bead 30 years ago in the western swamp. Within a radius of 10 miles, there are only piles of bones, with no living creatures, as if all life had been wiped out. Such was the devastation. Moved by compassion, Piyuzi decided to use the Buddhist method to suppress it. For 30 years, he had continuously applied the secret techniques of exorcism, using the pure energy of the Buddhist treasures to suppress the evil spirit hanging it alongside the precious jadeite prayer beads to counteract its malevolent intentions. Eventually, under layers of Buddhist power, the evil spirit was subdued and able to see the light of day. However, during the battle in the grass temple village, Piyuzi was severely injured by the mysterious black-clothed person, nearly exhausting his energy. Although the black-clothed person was also injured and fled, Piyuzi knew that he hadn't struck at the root. Anticipating the black-clothed person's desire for the blood-devouring bead, Piyuzi had no choice but to give it to Zhang Xiaofan, instructing him not to reveal it to anyone and to throw it into a deep valley whenever he had the chance. Though it might harm some innocent beings, it was still much better than falling into the hands of that evil person. However, Piyuzi never imagined that Zhang Xiaofan, out of gratitude, would keep this great evil object as a memento. The blood-devouring bead lost the suppression of Piyuzi's Buddhist methods and lacked the pure energy of the jadeite prayer beads to counteract its evil intentions. The evil spirit gradually began to erode the restrictions, but the exorcism techniques of Tianyin Temple were not to be underestimated. Although the restrictions had lost their master, they remained loyal to their duty, constantly restraining the evil spirit for 3 years. However, over time, they became weaker and weaker, struggling to maintain their strength. Today, it seemed that they were on the verge of being broken, bringing disaster to the world. Zhang Xiaofan didn't know about all these twists and turns, but he already had a vague sense of foreboding. During the battle at the Grass Temple, Piyuzi had used the swastika mantra multiple times in his fight against the black-clothed person. Although he was young at the time, he remembered it deeply. At this moment, seeing the dire situation of the mantra on the bead, he felt anxious. Without further ado, he clenched the bead tightly in his hand and exerted his rudimentary understanding of the great Brahmin wisdom. Focusing his attention on the bead, the two were originally connected, and surprisingly, the swastika mantra on the blood-devouring bead lit up a bit brighter. However, before Zhang Xiaofan could smile, it dimmed again in an instant. Meanwhile, a cold sensation seeped into his body, causing half of his body to numb within moments. The gray monkey nearby saw Zhang Xiaofan's painful expression, and its face turned anxious, chirping repeatedly. But Zhang Xiaofan was too preoccupied to pay much attention. He felt his essence and blood flowing back towards his right hand, where the peculiar bead was located.